Just one. On it. Go top. Over top.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of our Major League Rugby previews. And I want to start off by just giving a big thank you to Major League Rugby, who invited me to embed with the MLR Rising players. And I really had a good time with those guys. And there's a MLR Rising shirt right there too, by the way. And it really gave me some good insight into some of the players and how they train, how they prepare, how they fit in with other players. So as we get into the position-specific talks about the players who are available in the draft and where they might fit into the entire pecking order, things like that, just wanted to thank Major League Rugby for that. So yes, we're getting into the positions now here in episode 2, and we're going to start in the middle. Sometimes we start lowest number, sometimes highest number. Let's start in the middle. Let's start with 9 and 10. Let's start with the halfbacks. And I'm going to there's one real big tweener, maybe two, in that specifically one that I'm going to start off talking about. And as I talk about this, I'm going to reference some metrics. There was a sort of a combine, a quick little athletics metrics, a Bronco 40 meter, 10 meter, and vertical leap at MLR Rising. I'll reference those. I'm not going to give you specific numbers, more, sort of where they rate in general compared to everybody else. And then also I gathered some stats off the MLR Rising game, went through every single play to see who was doing things, who was active, and rating stuff. Like I rated every pass out of 5. I rated every kick out of 5, and then gave players sort of an average and sort of compared it to what I would expect. We're going to start with our tweener player, and that's Aiden Ridgeway, who's Arkansas State, originally from South Africa. I'm actually not sure of his USA eligibility, which is important because if you are a foreign player, it's much harder to break in unless you blow people away as a collegiate player, because the teams tend to sign more experienced overseas players. But Ridgeway, number one, he's first in the Bronco on the testing, and rated the best in the physical testing among the Scrumhalves. Now, to be fair, almost everybody did quite well in there among the Scrumhalves. But he rated very well. He was the fittest. His vertical leap was also the best among the Scrumhalves. So he was the fittest. The Bronco was the best out of everybody. And that's impressive. Okay. Then, set up to be one of the Scrumhalves, injuries forced him to be in the number 10 jersey the entire MLR Rising game. He played flyhalf almost the entire game. And what came out of that was a couple of things. First of all, like two try-saving tackles. That was very, very impressive to me. And the other thing was he was excellent in kick response. So I rated kick response. It's really your kick too. Do you catch it? What is your decision? Did you kick it back and it was an effective kick? Did you run it back and it was an effective run? Did you pass it to someone? It was a good pass and that person did something useful? Or did you pass a good pass to someone who had 3 guys coming in to smash him? And his kick response was a 4.25 out of 5. His passing was very consistent and very good. So he slotted in at Flyhalf extremely well. So I think anybody who watched that game will say that Ridgeway not only is a good rugby player, and said, well, he's a scrum half? Well, he's listed as a scrum half. He's also a fly half, and you could do both. We're going to stick with fly half because there are actually not that many fly halves. And there's one player who declared himself the fly half that I'm moving to fullback because everybody moved him to fullback, and I thought he played very well at fullback, so we'll worry about him later. First of all, let's have a look at the guys who are really good players and exciting players. I don't know if they're fit. Demir Kanchi from Principia, Chief Chipfumbo from Wheeling, and then Junior Wakavesi from St. Mary's. These are all terrific players. Chipfumbo, I don't know, he just screams sevens player for me. I think if anybody watches him play at fly half, he's good with the ball. His ball handling is good, but it's his speed, 22, things like that. I think people probably look at him somewhere else other than fly half. He's from Zimbabwe. Again, we'll talk about the foreign situation. Demir Kanchi, very similar. He's a bit more of a string puller. But again, I think the level of competition is a question, and the type of player he is and his residency status. So that would be a player who probably, I think, they would sort of ease into a academy situation. Wakavese, I don't know. It depends who you talk to. Some people say this is the guy. This guy should probably be in the Eagles within a year and a half. Some say he should just go play for sevens for the USA, which I think I may be in that boat. Junior, you can do whatever you want. But he's a running fly half. He's played a ton of different positions. His versatility is a good thing, but it can also be a negative because you can't hang your hat on something and say this is what he should be. So it depends on the character of the team. And you want to play a little bit more wide open, a little bit more of a Pacific Ocean style of play. This man you want on your team, whether he wears a 9 or a 10 or a 12 or a 13 on there or a 15, who knows? He's capable of doing it all. So I think he's an exciting prospect. Don't be surprised if he's not drafted, though. I don't think that would be an insult. I think it'd be more like, I don't know where you fit. That's those guys. Greenwich High School and Fordham University product Francisco Liguori is another interesting one at Flyhalf because he's a very shifty, very athletic young fly half, USA qualified, so that's a plus for him. And he can also bounce between 10 and 15. Very good kicker, both from the hand and from the tee. And the big question really is like, when you get up to slightly higher levels and as a fly half, as a playmaker, you don't have as much time. Maybe you have 1 second less to make a decision. Can you handle it? I think he's going to prove to be a very useful number 10 at the higher levels, but he hasn't had quite the same experience being in Liberty Conference as opposed to some of the bigger D1A conferences, things like that. However, in the bowl game that Fordham played in December, he kind of took apart Southern Nazarene, did a really good job there, and was the MVP of that game. Alex Park out of Texas A&M, I think, did himself a load of good at MLR Rising, and I see that for a number of reasons. Number one, he scored very well on the metrics, not super great on the Bronco, but his 40 and his 10-meter time were terrific. He then played a large chunk of the game for MLR Black, who won the game. His passing was very good. It was over a 4.5 out of 5, his average passes, so that's pretty good. Kicking, I didn't rate anybody's kicks all that particularly well, but his kicks were above average for the players that were in the game, and his open field tackling was actually extremely good. He made, I counted 6 tackles. I counted him missing 1, which does happen, right? But overall, aside from that, I think he rated really, really highly with a lot of players in terms of his teamwork, his ability to work within the system. Seemed like a pretty good guy to be around. Finally, we have 2 guys who are not at MLR Rising that I think rate as really good professional level fly halves. One is Dalton Musselman out of Penn State, a Schultz Award candidate. Somebody who went through some injuries last year out of Bishop Shanahan in Pennsylvania. And he came into the bowl game last fall in Charlotte, and he blew the doors off that. Penn State just crushed Ohio State. It was a good Ohio State team, and Musselman was the star of the game. He can do the stuff that you need a professional fly half to do. He can also play fullback. He's probably going to be able to slot in at 12 and stuff like that. He's a good reader of the game. I think he's got a lot of potential. He can also kick, and he can also catch kicks. Speaking of kicking, Sam Masterson out of Colorado State, product of St. Thomas Aquinas in Kansas and Overland Park, Kansas. Masterson is almost like prototypical. You want somebody to go play fly half for a professional team and develop it. And, again, maybe not drafted. Maybe put into an academy situation for a year or 2. But this is a guy who reads the field very well. His kicking game is outstanding. He's physically powerful, so he can play defense. He can run the system, and I think that he can blossom in a professional environment. There are a ton of scrumhalves on this list. So we're not going to go through all of them because there are just too many. So we're going to hit the highlights on 6 of them. One of them, Jacob Bourne, UBC, Canadian, got injured before MLR Rising, so he didn't get to show up. So that really sucks for him. He's a good player, and so I just sort of a note about that is difficult for him. In no particular order, RJ Beach out of IUP, Division II player, yes, captain, dynamic all over the place, led them to a championship. He is a great runner with the ball. He's a great leader. He's a good, very good passer. He, the issue with a player like that in Division II is that he sort of takes so much control and he's such a quick tapper, things like that. Is he going to fit in well in the professional level? And there are some Division II players that I say, yes, can make the jump. RJ Beach is certainly one of them. Chris Gamage out of University of Victoria came on in the second half for the black team in MLR Rising. Did very well. His pass was consistent. Black was ahead, and they asked him to box kick quite a lot. And actually, his kicking, the way I rate his kicking, was probably the best. All the scrum halves who played in that game. His metrics on speed testing and all that stuff were the lowest among the scrum halves over there, however. But they weren't terrible. They just were the lowest. So not sure where he fits in because there's a lot of competition. And the competition goes along with Iman Lay out of Santa Clara, who I thought was terrific the whole weekend. His passing was really consistent. A couple of miscues, I think, sort of dropped him down closer to 4, away from 4.5. Played half the game, basically, but I thought he was a really good, consistent metronomic scrum half. Get to the ball, bam, out, and ball out, and they were going, and they were moving, and they're moving really well. And the message there is Black was leading significantly at halftime when Lay was in there. That leaves us with 2 more that I want to talk about. One of them was not at MLR Rising. That's Cal's Caleb Thomasine, who is a late addition, one of the later players who declared for the Major League Rugby Draft. He's a very powerfully built player, younger brother of Stephen Thomasine, the USA Sevens player. So, he's got that pedigree. He is a very good passer, very good runner with the ball. He's really good at that pick and just go through, and he can push people off. Good defender as well. So he's an excellent option, and I think potentially someone you might see drafted relatively high, depending on what a team wants. And the other one is another player that you might see drafted relatively high. And George O'Brien out of Arizona, previously Raleigh Redhawks, was known as a runner. He was super fast. And so I think he knew he had that reputation coming in. And I thought he just devoted himself really, really well to just showing that he can do the basic scrum half stuff during MLR Rising. So he's actually right on a 4.5 on his passing on average, and he passed, I think, 48 passes, and he got a 4.5. That's really good. His on testing day, speed numbers are astonishing, and his first 2 or 3 steps is great. So he ended up quick tapping a couple of times, set up a try that way. So he was judicious in that. He also is very good over the ball. Created a couple of turnovers, forced a couple of penalties in rucks. So he's not just a runner passer. And I really thought that he was in that group that took his stock way up. And the only difference, maybe the only thing that might put Thomasine ahead of him is physical strength and power. And Thomasine seems to be a little bit more solidly built. But I wouldn't discount O'Brien because of that. All right, so that's our look at the halfbacks. We'll see how that goes. We've got other positions coming up. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Next Phase Rugby, Irish Rugby Tours, the US Rugby Foundation, and Panther Rugby Academy. And also thank everybody who supports us. We really do need support from readers because hosting a website and maintaining it costs a lot more money than you think it does. And so between that and travel, that's the big thing that readers who appreciate what we do can do. And you can make a direct donation. You can do a Patreon thing. URL is at the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.